My boyfriend of 3.5 years announced that I am a child toucher during a small house party. He claims it's an inside joke between us. It is not. I have no idea why he thought that telling people I'm a child toucher is okay or funny. For clarification, I am a 38-year-old female, and my current boyfriend is a 33-year-old male named B. We have been together for 3.5 years. We had met a couple times prior because our families and friends roll in the same social circles, but I had been a serial monogamist for around a decade. And other than finding each other mutually attractive, nothing physical happened. No flirting, no exchange of phone numbers or kisses. Absolutely nothing physically or verbally inappropriate. Keep in mind that both of us were legal adults when we first met. So, onto the night in question. He very loudly proclaimed to an amalgamation of friends, family, and strangers, all sitting around a dinner table, that I was a child toucher and that calling me a child toucher is an inside joke between us. It isn't. He brought this up because he drunkenly chose to talk about our relationship, despite its complete lack of relevance to the topic at hand. To preface, there is an age gap between us, roughly 5 years and 8 months. We first met when he was 19 and I was 26. I was in a long-term, committed adult relationship with C, 22M at the time. C was in college. I was working as a youth programs director. We cohabited and had been in a relationship for 2 years. C and I threw a house party. That is when I first met B. He was 19, loud, drunk, and I found him attractive and enthralling. We had a friendly conversation and nothing more. There was no flirting, no exchange of numbers, no physical interaction. I recall thinking he was cute and crazy, but that was it. Like I said, I was happily in a monogamous long-term relationship with C, and didn't consider B as anything other than an interesting party guest. We ran into each other at random parties throughout the years, but once again, we never shared any inappropriate conversations, and our only physical interaction was maybe a hello, good seeing you again hug. A decade passed and infection 19 hit. I happened to be in my hometown after spending 5 years abroad, in which we were absolutely not in contact. We were both invited to a small gathering at a bar. Our friends and family social circles still ran in tandem for the most part. At the time, B was 30 and I was 36. I was single, so was he. Shots ensued, we hooked up. Within a month, we decided to move in together. Within a year, we moved to another city. Within the past year, we have talked heavily about getting married. November will be our 4-year anniversary, and we have both lovingly stared into each other's eyes and talked about having children and growing old together. In our years together, we have talked about our respective pasts, and with an age gap, certain oh God moments have happened. For example, we will be talking about senior prom and how awkward, funny, stupid we were at 18, and he will pipe up and say, "Yeah, when you were a senior, I was in 7th grade." Or I will be telling a story about my first job working retail in college, and he will say, "So while you were going to frat parties, I was a freshman in high school." It's cringe, but true. And when said in that context, it's not great. And my usual response is something to the effect of, "Ooh, sweet Jesus, I don't want to think of it that way." Our age gap is not a problem for me. The majority of my long-term relationships have been with younger men. None of my previous partners made jokes about our age gaps. My relationship with B has been the largest gap. B is now 33 and I am 38. Our neighbors had some friends over for some Cinco de Mayo drinks. And when I got home from work, there were about 10 people hanging out in the backyard. I knew half of them. The other half were from out of town. I strike up conversation with them. Normal shoot like, "How long are you in town for?" And "What do you do for work?" So here I am chatting with this woman I've known for a total of 2 hours about the similarities in our upbringing playing competitive sports in high school and college, when B decides to loudly talk over us about how he and I first met. With the conversation redirected, all eyes on him. He recounts how we first met at a house party I threw. And I chime in that my first impression was that he was beautiful and terrifying and young and insane. But he was too young for me at the time. That's when he chose to call me a child toucher. He said that we joke all the time about how he was in elementary school while I was losing my virginity. And I'm such a child toucher who's into young guys. Cue everyone's shocked faces, awkward laughter, but mostly crickets. I absolutely refute the statements he's making and try to reiterate to the silent table that we ran into each other only in social settings for around a decade before truly re-meeting after 5 or so years of no contact whatsoever. And we were both in our 30s when we began dating. At this point, the collective tension has been eased, but holy freaking shoot. If I was at a dinner party and some woman joked about her boyfriend being a child toucher, I would absolutely be alarmed and most likely want nothing to do with either of them. Being a child toucher is not an accusation you hurl out of nowhere, and it's insanely distasteful to joke about. Outside of the occasional dude, you need to shave your mustache. It's giving me creepy child toucher vibes. Outright calling your partner a child toucher in a room full of old friends and new acquaintances is just freaking childish and disturbing and insanely unnerving and gross. Like, I'm having trouble thinking about him in any intimacy context now because his words and actions are that of a teenage boy. And that's freaking gross to me. BCIM, a grown butt woman who is not attracted to immature asshats or children. The party wrapped up pretty quick after that. I don't think I said goodbye to very many people. I pretty much fled out of shame and embarrassment. When I confronted B about it, he tried to blow it off, told me it was a joke and not a big deal. I tried to put it into perspective for him and asked how he would feel if, at a social event, I called him a child toucher, then doubled down, claiming it was an inside joke between us that he diddles kids. Well, that's not the same, he claimed. He then backed down a little and admitted it was weird and stupid, but when I kept pushing the conversation because I was still upset, he freaking got aggressive and tried to Darvo me, which I shot down immediately. I told him to sleep in the guest room and I went to bed. He tried to apologize, but when I rejected his apology because I'm clearly very freaking pissed off, he just got angry and tried to gaslight me, claiming, "We've joked about this before." We absolutely have not. I watch a lot of true crime. I am horrified by pedophilia. I worked with kids for several years. I would like to be a foster parent or adopt one day. All of these things B is aware of. We have had earnest and heartfelt conversations about doing our part to help children escape from abuse. I have seriously considered volunteering as a court liaison for children in the foster care system. And here's my partner telling people I'm a child toucher because he's several years younger than me? Like, what in the actual frick? I feel disgusted and I really don't know what to do here. Is this even salvageable? I'm not so sure that I can spend my life with someone who thinks that a 5-year, 8-month age gap is worthy of making child toucher jokes about me at a dinner party. Has anyone else dealt with this kind of behavior? How should I move forward with this relationship? Is there a way to move past this? I'm thinking couples therapy, but is it even worth it at this point? Edit. People seem to keep getting distracted by my horrific math that is self-admittedly all over the place. So here you go. Boyfriend is 33. I am 38. The age difference between us is 5 years, 3 months, 16 days, or 6 months, 16 days, or 276 weeks, 2 days, or 46,416 hours, or 2,784, 96 minutes, or 167,097,600 seconds. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, it sounds like it's been weighing on his mind since he keeps bringing it up, and it's also weighing on your mind since you immediately called him childish, a teenage boy, immature, and a child. For most people in their 30s, a 5-year age gap would be totally unremarkable. It seems like there's more going on. Comment 2. He's been making jokes about your age gap throughout the entire relationship. He's not being honest with you. He's not as comfortable with the gap as he says. Personally, I wouldn't date someone who tried to publicly humiliate me. I would see it as a betrayal. Now, for the update, thanks for the support and advice on my last post. It's been a rough few days. After the party disaster, I thought things couldn't get worse, but they did. The next day, I found out that one of the guests had recorded B's outrageous claim and posted it online. It spread like wildfire. My phone was blowing up with messages from friends, family, and even colleagues asking if it was true. The shame was unbearable. I confronted B about the video. He was mortified that his joke had gone public, but his regret didn't undo the damage. I demanded he take responsibility and set the record straight. He agreed to post a public apology, but the damage to my reputation was already done. Meanwhile, I was suspended from my job pending an investigation. The organization I worked for had strict policies about conduct, and even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, the accusation alone was enough to put my career on hold. I was devastated. The following day, I received a call from an old friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. She had seen the video and wanted to offer support. We talked for hours, and she reminded me of a time when B had made a similarly inappropriate joke at a party years ago, long before we were together. I had forgotten all about it, but it was a pattern of behavior I could no longer ignore. I realized that B's actions were not just a one-time mistake, but part of a deeper issue. I couldn't trust him anymore, and I couldn't be with someone who found humor in such a serious accusation. I told B it was over. He begged for forgiveness, but I stood firm. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, but it was necessary. I spent the next day packing up B's things. It was painful, but with each item I put away, I felt a little lighter. I reached out to a lawyer for advice on how to handle the fallout from the video, and was told to document everything and prepare for a potential defamation case. By the end of the third day, B had moved out, and I was alone in our apartment. It was quiet, but the silence was a relief after the chaos of the past few days. I had lost a lot, but I had also taken control of my life again. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for confronting my dad? About his much younger girlfriend who felt trapped. 3 years ago, my 24-year-old parents, 62-year-old father, and 61-year-old mother divorced. I'm their only child and live in my own apartment, while my mom got the family house and my dad bought a new place. They've always been on friendly terms through their separation, which has certainly made some things a lot easier, but my dad's actions following their split have been causing issues. My dad seemed to rebound pretty hard after the divorce. He started frequenting bars and going on blind dates most evenings. I can't lie, my mom and I worried that he wasn't coping well with the split. But he reassured us both that he was a grown man and that we shouldn't be worrying about him. I acknowledged that and tried to step back and not meddle in his love life. Nothing crazy came of it, and we didn't talk about it much. About a month ago, Dad met up with me and Mom to tell us about a new relationship he was in. To our surprise, he pulled out his phone and showed us his new girlfriend, a 23-year-old. Neither of us really knew what to say, as my dad gushed about how wonderful she was and how she was an old soul who he had a profound connection with. He kept on and on until my mom essentially asked what the hell he was doing with a girl younger than his daughter. To be clear, the dates he told us about in the past had always been around his age. My dad didn't take Mom's question well, arguing that she was a consenting adult and he wasn't forcing her to be with him. My mom acknowledged that it was legal, to which my dad was like, "Then if you can't support us, it's your problem." We didn't know how to feel about this. I know it's not illegal, and if they both want to, they can do whatever they want. But I can't deny it makes me uncomfortable. Last weekend, my mom had a family BBQ, and my dad asked if he could bring his girlfriend and introduce us. I arrived and they were already there, and honestly, within 2 seconds of speaking to Dad's girlfriend, I felt so bad for her. She just seemed so childlike and nervous, and I felt super uncomfortable for her being in this situation. Meanwhile, my dad was going around to the family talking about how great their relationship is and how he's 23 at heart. People were clearly weirded out and he didn't seem to notice, and he kept making a show of going over and kissing his girlfriend. So yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. I don't like the relationship, but is it even my place to do anything about it? It's at a point where I dread seeing my dad because I know he'll talk endlessly about his girlfriend. Then I just remember her face at the BBQ and feel so weirded out. My mom doesn't like it either, but says he has to work it out on his own. If I try to tell him how I feel, what would I even say? I'm just at a loss and don't know what to do. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I would tell your dad straight up that what he's doing is affecting the way you look at him. That if someone in your social circle was dating a guy his age, you and your friends would think the guy was a creep. I would also tell him that you love him and want him to be happy, but you can't support this particular relationship and don't want to hear about or hang out with his girlfriend. Dudes like your dad need to experience some social shaming to understand that what they're doing is wrong. Most people will tiptoe around it. He deserves a dose of reality. Comment 2. I was in a similar situation with my father. He was 62 years old. She was 26, younger than me by a decade. He brought her to an event at my home, and she was all over him. Lots of public displays of affection, PDA. I found it disturbing. I couldn't imagine what they had in common or what their future would look like. Edit to say, I don't think your father will react well to anything but acceptance of his relationship. But if he intends to bring her around, I think you should speak your mind and hope he understands. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more about this mess. Last week, things blew up. Dad's girlfriend, let's call her Jane, showed up at my apartment unannounced. She was crying, saying she needed someone to talk to. Turns out, she's been feeling pressured to act more mature, to fit into Dad's world. She confessed that she felt trapped, like she was playing a role she didn't want. I didn't know what to do, so I just listened. It was clear she was in over her head. The next day, I got a call from my mom. She was furious. Apparently, Jane had left her phone at my place, and when she went back to get it, she left behind a letter she'd written but never meant to send. It was addressed to my dad, talking about how she felt like she was losing herself, how she missed her old life, her friends, and how she wasn't ready for this kind of relationship. My mom had found the letter and read it. I felt sick to my stomach. I knew I had to confront Dad. I went over to his place and we had it out. I told him everything Jane had said about the letter, about how everyone felt. He was defensive at first, but when I showed him the letter, he broke down. He admitted he'd been trying to recapture his youth, to prove something to himself after the divorce. He hadn't considered Jane's feelings or how it looked to the rest of us. The aftermath was a mess. Jane decided to break things off with Dad. She moved back in with her parents to figure things out. Dad was heartbroken, but he knew it was for the best. He started going to therapy to deal with the divorce and everything that followed. But just when I thought things might settle down, another bomb dropped. My mom had been seeing someone too, in secret. She'd kept it quiet because she didn't want to add to the drama. Her boyfriend was a family friend, someone we'd all known for years. It was a shock, but unlike Dad's situation, it felt right. They were good for each other, and it was a relationship built on mutual respect and shared history. I was angry at first for her keeping it from me, but I realized that she was just trying to protect me from more chaos. It was a lot to process. But it made me see that everyone was just trying to find their way after the divorce, even if they stumbled along the way. Thanks for reading through all this. Am I the idiot for exposing my uncle after learning he's the father of my sister's baby? This is haunting me, and I need help. I, 22-year-old male, am the oldest of 6. My sister, 17-year-old female, is the third oldest of our group. Growing up, we didn't have a great childhood, which has led to separation between me and my younger sisters. While I was visiting my grandparents, my uncle, 40-year-old male, asked to have a beer, and I went out to smoke with him. Things were going normal as we were chatting about life, moving, and other matters. While we were chatting about updates on his divorce, he told me that my sister and he were moving into an apartment together in the city. That didn't faze me much, as I knew they were close and she had previously lived with him, my soon-to-be ex-aunt, and cousins in another state a few months ago. This information is known by my mom, dad, and grandparents. But I'm the first of the children to know. As we continued shooting the breeze, he told me that he has something to tell me about. Something that would make me want to yell at him or just walk away and never look back. In my mind, I thought it was something about unalived or abuse, as he is going through a difficult divorce and has been struggling. Then he drops a bombshell. He got my sister pregnant. I'll be as precise as possible about the details, but I still feel shockwaves after hearing it. He told me the reason they're moving in is because he is the father of my sister's baby. And besides him and my sister, I am the only family member who knows. He said that everything that transpired was consensual and that their intention is to keep the baby. And the reason they are moving out is to keep my sister protected from the backlash. He repeatedly told me that I can do whatever I want with this information, and that he won't judge me if I tell everyone in the family, but I am left in awe that he would. 1. Be romantically involved with his blood-related niece. And 2. Think that I am fit and able to carry this information. It's only been a few hours since writing this post, but I just feel sick being the only one outside of them who is burdened with this information. A few details that I should mention that are scrambling in my head. Their move-in date is only a few days away. The baby is due late this year, October, November. My uncle is in the process of getting divorced and has 2 kids of his own. My uncle is our mom's brother. My uncle and sister are religious, Christianity. My uncle has never been a person to tell a lie, or at least not to me. So I come to you, Reddit, as a source of help. How do I handle this information? After talking to my girlfriend, she pointed out that it seems that he wants me to be the one to break the news to the family, but I just can't handle my parents not knowing that they're moving out is actually because they are having a child. She's not a legal adult yet, so I'm not sure what laws were broken on top of the inbreeding. I'm going to bed after writing this, but I'll try to edit or reply when I can. Edit. Grammar, spelling errors. I have also told my parents. My girlfriend and I have been reading your comments, and I appreciate all your advice. I will do a full update tonight as more comes out, and I have the energy to make a post. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I admire your restraint for not confronting him like a wild chimpanzee right then and there. He has been grooming and sexually assaulting your underage sister for however many years, and now he is moving away with her to isolate and continue harassing her. Tell everyone. Scream it from the rooftops. Go to the police, importantly. Comment 2. Right now, inform your mom, dad, and grandparents. Right now. He is a bad, bad person, and no teenager should ever be alone with him again. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, it's been a wild 3 days since I last posted, and things have escalated way beyond what I could have imagined. The day after I found out about my sister and uncle, I was a mess. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and the thought of facing my family made my stomach turn. But I knew I had to do something. I decided to talk to my sister first to hear her side of the story. She confirmed everything my uncle had said, and she seemed calm about it. Too calm. It was like she had convinced herself that this was normal, that they were going to be a happy family. That hit me hard. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I had to make a choice. I could either spill the beans to my parents or keep it under wraps. But then, my sister told me she was planning to tell them herself after they moved in together. That was the last straw for me. I couldn't let her do that. It would destroy my parents. So I took it upon myself to tell them. It was the hardest conversation I've ever had. My mom cried, my dad was furious, and I felt like I was tearing my family apart. But it was out there. No more secrets. The fallout was immediate. My parents confronted my uncle, and it was a huge blowout. Voices were raised, accusations were thrown, and in the middle of it all, my uncle had the nerve to try and justify his actions. He said it was love, that they didn't choose this, but nobody was buying it. My parents decided to take legal action. They're looking into what can be done about the situation, considering my sister's age and the family relation. It's a mess, and the tension at home is thick enough to cut with a knife. But then, something unexpected happened. My sister, maybe seeing the pain she was causing, made a decision. She broke things off with my uncle and decided to move back home. She's going to have the baby, but she wants to do it with the support of our family, not in some misguided attempt at a relationship with our uncle. It's not a perfect solution. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen, a lot of trust to rebuild, but it's a start. My sister's getting the help she needs, and my parents are slowly coming to terms with the situation. It's going to be a long road ahead, but at least we're walking it together. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.